Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. I'm your guys' host, Shu Shu-Maker. I hope you guys are having a phenomenal Friday so far. But with that being said, it's time to wrap up this week with another episode of the SchuZ Show. So today's show is not going to have any guests on it, but we are going to get into a preview of all the fights going down this weekend. On top of that, I'll be addressing some boxing news that's come out as well. So make sure to go leave your thoughts in the chat. If there's any other topics that you guys want me to address, any questions, anything, make sure to leave in the chat and I will address that as I go throughout tonight's show. Let's hop right into it though. There's quite a few fights. Now, this weekend does not compare to what happened last weekend. You know, when we're looking at what happened last weekend on Saturday, July 19th, that will go down most likely as the combat sports night of the year. This is not going to be that. But there's still some solid fights. Let's break it down. First and foremost, I want to start off with the undisputed women's heavyweight championship fight. Claressa Shields fighting Lani Daniels. All right. I'm not going to give you guys a long breakdown about this fight. We know who Claressa is. The greatest woman of all time, self-proclaimed. Debatably the number one pound-for-pound women in all of sports right now. In all of combat sports for women's right now. Daniels, obviously solid. She's the IBF light heavyweight champion. Being brought up to go out there and fight Claressa. Let me make this very clear, though. Those of us that know who Claressa Shields is knows that this is going to be a fight that she's going to win with ease. And in all honesty, when we talk about Claressa Shields, she is somebody that I just don't see losing. There is rumors of the Ali fight happening, but even then, we are looking at a situation where Claressa Shields is in her prime. As for Ali, she is somebody that is far outside her prime. She's in her 40s now. That would not be a very competitive fight, and therefore, when we talk about today, I don't see anybody beating Claressa Shields. That's just a fact. Anything can happen in boxing, but it's less likely to happen when it's talking about women's sports and boxing particularly. When you look at Claressa Shields, she is somebody that even if you want to say somebody else out there is more talented in terms of skill and whatnot, she's got the weight advantage on them. Nobody's going to beat Claressa Shields. So therefore, I see her winning by a wide decision, maybe even possibly a knockout, but most likely it'll be by a wide decision. It's going to be a masterclass and a perfect performance by Claressa. That's just the honest opinion I've got on that one. Let's head over to what I believe will be the fight of the weekend. Going over to the UK, Ryan Garner fighting Reece. This is one of the biggest, most exciting domestic fights that the UK has had in a little bit now. These are two guys that you're going to have. The British Commonwealth belts will both be on the line. You know, Ryan Garner was on the show a couple months ago, about 6 weeks ago. If you guys have not checked the interview out yet, make sure to go check it out. But he came on the show and talked about why he decided to go this route. Ryan Garner is somebody that's already on the world stage if he wants to be on it. He is ranked amongst a couple different sanctioning bodies right now. He is somebody that could go get big fights on the world stage. He wants to make sure to go back and land himself all the belts possible and do the proper build-up in order to get to where he wants to be at. And so who's in the way of him? Reece. This is going to be a huge fight between unbeaten Ryan Garner, who is 17-0 with 8 KOs, defending his European title against the British and Commonwealth champion Reece, who is 20-5, 15 KOs. This will be a massive fight. When you talk about styles make fights, this fight should lead to an absolutely highly entertaining fight. Two guys that want to throw down, very entertaining, all-action fighters with a lot on the line. Where the winner of this fight would most likely be elevated to go fight for possibly even a title eliminator or be in world title contention. And you see that sometimes, but it's not that common to have one of these domestic fights immediately lead to a world title championship type fight. This is one of those situations. Both guys are very exciting. Both guys are eyeing world title shots, and this is going to be a massive fight tomorrow. Who do I have winning this fight? I believe Ryan Garner will come away with the win. Most likely by decision. I think his finesse, his footwork should outpoint Bellotti's aggression in this fight. But still, this is something that I would consider and would not have anything against if somebody wants to call this a 50-50 type fight. Both guys are going to bring it and have an incredible fight tomorrow. This has a chance, and I believe it will be the fight of the weekend, but this has a chance to be one of the better fights that we've seen this year. Possibly even the domestic fight of the year. That's how highly anticipated this fight should be. Massive fight happening out there in the UK. On the undercard of this, you have Aloys Jr. having a fight against Ellis Zorro. Now, this fight was just scheduled a couple weeks ago in replacement, so it was just thrown and elevated up onto this card. Cruiserweight, co-main event. Aloys Jr. 10-1, 9 KOs, fighting British veteran Ellis Zorro, who's 18-2 with 7 KOs. 10-round cruiserweight clash. Anything can happen in boxing. However, I believe that Aloys Jr. will continue his elevation to the next stages of the cruiserweight division by having a dominant performance, most likely a mid-round KO in this fight. Aloys Jr. is on a different level than Zorro. Zorro is a solid veteran. He's been around for a little bit. He's done his thing. But Aloys Jr. is on the up and coming. And if American people that are tuning into the show right now do not know who he is yet, he has a good chance to be the next big-time name coming out of the cruiserweight division from the UK. He is a very entertaining, exciting fighter. And I believe he will make a statement tomorrow morning, my time, at least tomorrow afternoon, out there in the UK on the co-main event. Let's head over to what is happening here now in just a couple of hours. That is Elijah Pierce taking on Michael Dasmarinas. He is the WBO. This is for the WBO International Featherweight title. Elijah Pierce was on this show 1 week ago, actually on Thursday, so I guess 8 days ago. And he talked about this. This is his debut at 126. He was at 122 doing his thing. He moved up to 126 now. Weight cuts, everything made him move to 126. I feel like this is a weight class that we're going to start seeing a lot more of Elijah Pierce in. 122 is just a very difficult weight class to be able to maneuver and make fights happen when you have a guy like Inoue out there. Every single guy is gunning for Inoue because you know that is a career-altering paycheck from a notoriety standpoint and future paychecks, but also in that fight in and of itself. And there's not anyone like that at 126. He's going to have big fights, but this is going to be more so of a tune-up fight. He talked about it. He knows that he needs to go in there, take care of business. He's not looking at it like a tune-up fight. But from the outside looking in, this is going to be it should be at least a very easy win for Elijah Pierce. I'm expecting a dominant performance where it's going to lead to him having a absolutely early KO dominant performance where it'll elevate him and have himself get a big fight at 126. That's the way I personally see it. Now, things could obviously go sideways, but Elijah Pierce is much more skilled. He has more power. Really, he should be able to beat this man in any way, shape, or form he wants. The Filipino veteran is very solid. He has good fights on his resume. 36-4-2, 25 KOs. But when I look at Elijah Pierce, this is somebody that I do not feel like gets the credit he deserves. He is a guy that, like I said, has been kind of in a sense screwed over by the 122 weight class. Not a lot of big fights happening, not a lot of movement, and that has made him, in a sense, we had to stall out. He hasn't been in the ring for 11 months. So there might be a little bit of rust early on, but I expect by round 4 or 5, the fight will be over. Elijah Pierce will be victorious, and he will be moving on to a position where he could be fighting for a top 10 type guy at 126. He's already been elevated. He is a top 10 guy ranked at 126 now, but I think he's going to give himself a pretty big fight after this dominant performance he should have in a couple of hours now. Let's go over to what will be the final top ranked card going down on ESPN. Now, that's going to be a very interesting thing. When we talk about the whole situation there with ESPN, Top Rank, who knows when Top Rank returns? There has been a lot of debate as to whether or not they're going to be back in the next month, 2 months, 3 months. We don't have any deals. We have no notices out there yet. But this will be the final one. Going down at Madison Square Garden, the theater, the main event, Xander Zayas, Jorge Garcia, WBO Super Welterweight title fight. This will be a very entertaining fight for the 154 belt. This is the belt that was vacated by Sebastian Fundora, so we will have a new world champion here. The Puerto Rican star Xander Zayas, he is 21-0, 13 KOs, will finally be making that jump from a prospect to a legitimate world champion contender now. We'll see if he gets the job done, but we'll see. He's fighting the Mexican Jorge Garcia, 33-4, 26 KOs for the vacant WBO World Championship at 154. All right. If you were to ask me who do I think wins this fight, I would have said without a shadow of a doubt Xander Zayas if you asked me that question prior to the Charles Conwell fight. You know, Charles Conwell went out there, and I liked Jorge Garcia Perez. He has had good fights before. I've seen a couple of them. But what I witnessed in that Charles Conwell fight really impressed me. And I get it. Styles do make fights. But when you look at the way he executed against Conwell, somebody who I thought was a legitimate threat at 154, I still think he'll be back. But something was very interesting in that fight. He showed out and absolutely neutralized Conwell and dominated that fight, in my opinion. The beginning portion of the fight were competitive, but that second half of the fight was all Garcia Perez. And now that I look back at this, we have a very interesting matchup here. This is going to be a very entertaining fight. Xander Zayas is somebody that has been working his way up, a highly regarded prospect, and now it's his time to shine. Where Jorge Garcia Perez is a man that's now coming into the show, just all of a sudden became a star. People just started learning about his name in the Charles Conwell fight. Now they go showdown. So let me explain this fight and break it down a little bit more. Zayas is the top rank's youngest signee coming off a KO against Lala Spooner. And as for Garcia, he's a former IBO champion. He upset Charles Conwell just a couple months ago in April. Zayas has the sharper jab, clean combinations. Also, he's good at composure. Garcia is a pressure fighter, heavy hands, unpredictable rhythm. He is going to be pushing on the gas the entire fight, at least as long as that's what he should do. It's the way he's always fought. I think it's the way to go against Xander Zayas as well. Zayas is looking for his first world title in his 4 straight MSG appearance. Garcia, this has been the man that's already shocked the world once. I think that he's proven that if everybody's going to go doubt him, he's able to go show up and shine out on a big stage, and we should be able to see that once again. However, after I thought these two things through, Garcia Perez will win some rounds. This is not going to be an easy beatdown or one-way fight, in my opinion. Garcia Perez will put himself in position to be a pressure fighter throughout the entire duration of the fight. He is not going to let up on Xander Zayas. His gas tank is quite incredible, at least as long as it is similar to what he did against Charles Conwell. And if that is the case, Xander Zayas will lose some rounds in this fight. But I believe that when this fight is over, when all 12 rounds have come to completion, the winner on tomorrow night's main event will be Xander Zayas. We will have a new world champion. He will be the man at 154. That's the way I see it happening. Let's go to the co-main event. Bruce Shu Shu Carrington versus Mateus Hida. This is for the WBC interim featherweight title. Brooklyn's Bruce Carrington is 15-0 with 9 KOs. He's fighting a man who is 14-0 with 9 KOs in a battle of unbeatens. All right, let me just make this clear. We've all seen Bruce Carrington. We know what he does. Not a lot of people have seen Mateus Hida. However, that 14-0 with 9 KOs record is very inflated. And let me just make that very clear. Yes, two guys are unbeaten here, but we have seen this before. A guy that comes in from another country, unbeaten record, with not very good wins, and it ends up showing up on the big stage. This fight has been essentially just gifted to Bruce Carrington. Now, not saying he does not deserve it. He deserves to be in title contention. He's earned his right to be fighting for an interim belt. He has earned all these different things. He should have had big fights. For one reason or another, those fights are not getting made. You can ask Top Rank, you can ask whoever it is. I don't have the answers there. What I do know is that he has put himself in position and is long overdue in terms of getting a world title shot, or at least an interim title shot. He's earned this. But in terms of who he's fighting, this is not a good matchup. Bruce Carrington should have his way with him. Mid-round stoppage. At the bare minimum, he will have a win by decision, but I think it's going to be a stoppage win. His skill sets will overwhelm Hida. This is not going to be a competitive fight. Book it. Go put your money on it, whatever you want. Bruce Carrington should win this fight. By Monday, when I come back on the show, and he actually will be on the show hopefully next week, we're discussing that right now, Bruce Carrington will be the WBC interim featherweight world champion. That's what we're going to see right there. Other notable fights going down this weekend include Haven Bradley Jr. to Michael Harris. The fight is underway in just a couple of minutes now. Morgan Griggle versus Max Garland. Nathan Lugo versus Rashad McWilliams. That fight's going on right now. Taylor Bevan will be returning. The young prospect up and coming. He's fighting. Emiliano Vargas, one of the most exciting American prospects, will be returning to the ring this weekend, as is Rohan Polanco, a man who I am confident will be a world champion in the future. Then you have Jalov. He's fighting a 10-round heavyweight fight. He's an up-and-coming heavyweight to watch right there. Steven Navarro and Julius Ballo then makes his pro debut. Lots of entertaining fights, as I said. It's not July 19th. Saturday of last weekend was phenomenal. We're not going to see a weekend like that, most likely, again this year. Now, November is starting to look pretty good there. You know, the whole Riyadh season card. But overall, July 19th was stacked, especially when you factor in UFC's main event with Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway last weekend. So it's not going to be that type of weekend, but without a shadow of a doubt, still a very good weekend overall. If you guys have any comments, by the way, or chats, if you have any comments or questions or disagreements, agreements, whatever it is, make sure to leave it in the chat and I will address that as I go throughout today's show. Let's hop into some boxing news, though. We are not got a lot of stuff going on right now, especially since last night had a later night show. Not a lot of stuff has happened since then, but two things in regards to fights have been rolling out now. Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia are in advanced talks for a rematch in December. Interesting. Ryan Garcia now has surgery. It seems like he was not 100% in that Rolly Romero fight, and obviously something was going on because that was not a good showing by Ryan Garcia whatsoever. Rolly Romero had his way with him. But Ryan Garcia now has surgery. Now we've heard he might have a shoulder surgery, but it appears he might be able to fight by December. And now they're in negotiations, advanced talks, I should say, in regards to making the rematch happen. Great. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Ryan Garcia needs to get back. He needs to go redeem himself with a win there and get that time going on. You know, obviously Rolly's the WBA regular champion now. Ryan Garcia needs that fight desperately. That was a horrible showing at Times Square card. We'll see what happens there. But Rolly Romero is the one in control right now. And what's interesting is that Rolly Romero is one of the best branded boxers in all boxing. And I say that because of this. Rolly Romero does not have the skill level of one of those top tier guys, and yet he's one of the biggest names in all boxing right now. Obviously, he's the WBA regular champion. Yes, he's been a world champion. Yes, he's a very accomplished fighter. But when we talk about skills, he does not compare to the likes of a Bud Crawford, Canelo Alvarez, so on and so forth. Yet, he has this massive name. And because of that name, it's now put himself in position where there are fights on the table for himself. He can choose now between this Ryan Garcia fight, which, as I said, are in advanced talks for a December fight, or Manny Pacquiao. And that is quite the luxury when you think about it. We're looking at a guy in Rolly Romero who is fine. He's good. But he's got himself in position to choose between Ryan Garcia, one of the biggest names in boxing, and Manny Pacquiao, who is now back in boxing. And as long as he's a part of it, he obviously is one of the biggest names in all boxing. So you have a very interesting decision where for Rolly Romero, he's the man that gets to call the shots now. Both of these guys want to fight him. Interestingly enough, because he has the WBA regular belt, he has to choose who he wants best. And so that's what I want to evaluate today. Who makes the most sense for Rolly Romero? I'm going to make this very short and simple for you guys. Rolly Romero should choose the guy that gives him the best payday. If you're Rolly Romero, you're going to look at the paychecks. Who's paying the most? You look at both guys. Obviously, Manny Pacquiao will be the bigger name, albeit it's 46, 47 years old Manny Pacquiao, depending on when it happens. That is what it is. But in terms of the name, the payday, PBC connection there, obviously look at it from that standpoint, cool on your resume. But if you're Rolly Romero right now, you're looking at who's going to pay me the most money. Both fights are very lucrative. Now it's up to him to decide which one makes the most sense for himself. If I were to look at it from a stylistic standpoint, Manny Pacquiao, this is tough. Manny Pacquiao probably would be the easier win. It's very hesitant to say that because obviously the way that Ryan Garcia fought in the Times Square card was pathetic. But if we're looking at Ryan Garcia, and I know there's a lot of stipulations, was the PEDs helping him, so on and so forth, I don't know the answers. What I do know is this. If Ryan Garcia brings it like he was typically doing in his career, that would be the tougher fight for Rolly Romero, obviously. And on top of that, you're going in there as the hunted man. Ryan Garcia needs his revenge. He needs that win, so on and so forth. For Manny Pacquiao, at the end of the day, it is a 47-year-old Manny Pacquiao. Prime Manny Pacquiao versus Rolly Romero would not be an entertaining fight. Obviously, we know who wins that fight easily without a shadow of a doubt. But with him being in his 46, 47 years old, that fight becomes a lot more appealing because that is a much more winnable fight if you're Rolly Romero. But as I said, at the end of the day, this comes down to who will pay up the most for Rolly Romero. The man that gives him the best payday, the best check, is the one that Rolly Romero should go out there and fight. Simple as that. Last one I want to get into on today's show is Shakur Stevenson. Masterful performance 2 weekends ago. Absolutely beautiful. It made him become one of the most respected fighters now. That was his career-altering performance, and I've already discussed that. But now it's time to start talking. What is next for Shakur Stevenson? Lots of options. I've already given you guys my idea for what I want to see him do. First and foremost, Tank Davis. But guess what? I already know that fight is not happening. Scratch that one off. Secondly, Lamont Roach. If Lamont Roach is on the table and he's willing to grow up and say, you know what? Tank Davis fight's not happening. Let's hop over to Shakur. Make that fight happen. Great fight. Lamont Roach's name is trending right now. He's one of the biggest names in boxing. Make that fight happen. Great payday for both guys. Make it happen. If that's not on the table, I would say third up, Raymond Martaya. I don't think it's a good fight. Shakur Stevenson will easily wax Raymond Martaya. However, there's rumors that Martaya wants that fight. And if he wants it, Shakur Stevenson can go ahead and take that belt and unify with ease. That's an idea for him to go out there and do as well. If those options are not on the table, or even a unification with Abdullah Mason and Sam Noakes fight winner, obviously that would be a little bit down the road though. If those are not on the table, you have to look up. What's that 140? And I think that's where Shakur Stevenson is starting to angle himself out at. He made a tweet today saying that he wants Teofimo Lopez, who at this point in time, Teofimo Lopez has already ducked guys. He's running his mouth. He's made his name and his fan base really despise him for the vast majority there. It's been a very interesting predicament for him. And if you're Teofimo Lopez, you're looking at a situation where you don't have a lot of fights now for one reason or another. There's lots of great fights. Teofimo Lopez was the only guy that came out and showed out on that Times Square card. Masterful performance by him. That should have set himself up for big fights. For one reason or another, it has not. And now you have to look at this. If the Hitchens fight and unification fight is not there, then what are you going to do? The Shakur Stevenson fight makes sense then. If you're Shakur, you are calling the shots because Teofimo Lopez has put himself in a very bad position when it comes to the way he's run his mouth. It's hurt himself a lot. He is not very good at that. I've discussed that before. But if you're Shakur Stevenson, you look at that 140 and say, you know what? That's a fight I could win. And honestly, I know a lot of fans out there are not going to like that fight. When you talk about one of the most technical sounded fights in all boxing to make right now, that might be it. I'm not sure how entertaining that's going to be for the vast majority of fans, but stylistically, we would witness some beautiful, fundamentally sound boxing. And that would be a great fight to make. Obviously, I would favor Shakur Stevenson. I think he's the better fighter, so on and so forth. But Teofimo Lopez is one of the best fighters in the world as well. Not going to discredit Teo. He is a great fighter. He's also up at weight class. He's already used to 140. He's a guy that's already tried fighting at 147. He's got the weight. He's got the skills. It would be a very close fight. If I were to list it at a percentages rank, I'd say it's a 60-40 fight, even a 55-45 fight. That's the way I would kind of put out the Teofimo Lopez in Shakur's favor there. That's the way I kind of want to break that fight down. But it makes a lot of sense. Teo's in a tough predicament. He has nobody else to fight. Shakur is giving you an opportunity. I don't know what Teo's going to do. He's already turned down many great opportunities. But if he's wise and Shakur really wants that fight to move up to 140 and make that fight happen and become a world champion at 140 as well now, that's hard to pass down if you're Teo. He should be confident in that fight, thinking that he could win that fight. And by all means, he has the right to do that. But if you are Teo, that's the route you should go down. If Shakur is really wanting that fight, make it happen. And I think that would be an excellent high IQ boxing fight to make. All right, with that being said, I said it was going to be a very short show. Not a lot of things and topics to get into on today's show. But I just want to hop on live real quick, let you guys know what's going on. I hope you guys have a phenomenal weekend, though. I will be back live on Monday, and I'll have a show to break down all the fights and whatnot. Lots of guests planned for next week on different basketball and boxing interview as well. But I hope you guys have a phenomenally blessed rest of you guys Friday, as well as a weekend. I will see you guys back live on the show on Monday. I hope you guys have a great weekend, as I said. May God bless you guys all. And with that being said, SchuZ out. I'll see you guys on Monday. God bless you guys.